Hello to you and welcome to this session. Today we are looking at something very interesting. One of the most powerful principles that I heard in public speaking that really changed the way I design my sessions and deliver my sessions is that never share a principle without the story and never share a story without a principle. And one of the most powerful ways and techniques that you can engage your audience from start to finish is storytelling. Actually, when you study the sector of public speaking right now, if you look at the most powerful public speakers in the world, they are very good storytellers. And storytelling is a skill. You can learn to tell stories. Personally, for me, I did not know how to tell stories. Until now, I am still growing in the art of storytelling. But I can tell you that when I started incorporating relevant stories in my sessions, in my public speaking, it changed. It changed my speaking career in a powerful way, right? And many times now, when I speak, I will speak. I was in a program speaking in Detroit, Michigan, in the U.S., and one of the very top coaches came to me and said, "You are so powerful at storytelling." Right. Meanwhile, it's something I've been training myself because back in secondary school and primary school, I had friends that used to, when they watch movies, they'll come and those guys were amazing. But I'll watch a movie and I cannot tell a scene from that movie because I was not good at storytelling. So I'm just trying to tell you that I learned how to tell stories. There are people who don't know how to tell stories. Then I put that you ask them, how was their day? Fine. They don't know what else to say. They don't know how to just explain how their day was, right? So it's a skill that you need to know. You need to master that particular skill. I'll do my best to share with you about 10 different ways that you can use to tell powerful stories. And these are things that I have used myself, and they have greatly helped me in my public speaking. Number one, which is the foundation, know your audience. You can never tell stories that will engage people when you don't know them. As I said, I always say, the stories that you can tell when you're delivering a keynote address to business executives is not the same story that you can tell in a youth conference. Like somebody like me, my speaking cuts across a lot of different classes of people: entrepreneurs, business leaders. I've spoken to pastors and priests. I've spoken in youth leaders and the youth conference, church youth conference, different kinds of platforms. So you also need to master where to tell which particular story, right? So know your audience and understand your audience interest, needs, expectations to tailor your story to their preference. Very important. Tailor your story to their preference, right? And just to add, please have a story bank. I have a story bank. I have places where I just go and jot down things that happen in my life, things I observe, things I see, things I hear. And anytime I'm developing a presentation, I'll go and just scan through that story bank and I'll remember a story that I would like to add to my presentation anytime I am presenting. Number two, start with a hook. Begin your story with a compelling opening that grabs your audience attention. For example, 10 years ago, something happened that changed my career. 2 years ago, I came across this incredible, beautiful woman. Right? So find hooks to your story. So find a hook. When you scan through your story, ask yourself, how do I start this story in a way that will compel the audience to pay attention? Number three, use descriptive language as much as possible. Use vivid and sensory language to paint a picture in your audience mind. Make your story very engaging. Okay? Don't just tell plain stories. No. Try to let people imagine themselves in that story, in that environment. For example, one of the stories I've shared many times is the story where the first time I was ever given something because of public speaking was in a church where I spoke in a conference, in a youth conference, and I was given a bottle of Fanta, a bottle of juice to drink. And before that, where I have spoken before, I used to beg to go speak. if I hear you're having an event, I'll call you or go to your house and tell you, please, can you give me 2 minutes, 10 minutes, 15 minutes to share something with your people? That's what I used to do, like for almost 1 year. And the first time I was really given something to appreciate my session was in a church youth conference where I was given a bottle of Fanta, right? And when I'm telling that story, I'll tell them, look, the bottle of Fanta was yellow. And the person who came to give me that bottle of Fanta, I was standing by the door and I was holding a very old bag and I was wearing a black suit with a pink shirt, right? And use descriptive language as much as possible. That is the best way that people can see themselves in your story. They can see what you are wearing, they can see what you are holding in your hands, and all of that. Okay. Number 4 is create a structure. Create a structure. Organize your story with a clear beginning, middle, and an end to make it easy to follow. Yes, structure is very important. And one thing that structure helps is that it helps you to tell your story within a particular time frame. Don't go and tell the story for 30 minutes. You're a terrible speaker. Good speakers tell short, compelling stories. Short, compelling stories. Okay? Because you don't have all the time. You don't have 24 hours to speak. You have just 1 hour, 2 hours, 45 minutes. And you have to use stories to engage your people. So create a structure. Start, middle, and end. And you know in your mind that this story, I need 2 minutes. All of my stories, I know that I need 1 minute, 30 seconds, 2 minutes, 3 minutes, depending on how long I have and the kind of audience I'm speaking to. Number 5, use dialogue. Incorporate dialogue into your story to make it more realistic and engaging. For example, the story about the Fanta. I can now say that I can now repeat the words that the person who gave me the Fanta said. I cannot say, as the gentleman walked towards me, a tall, black-looking gentleman, as he walked towards me, he gave me the bottle of Fanta and he said, your session was so amazing and the people are indicating interest that we should bring you back during our next conference. Thank you so much for making yourself available and for allowing God to use you to challenge us. Those were his words, right? So you're creating dialogue. You're creating dialogue in your stories. Okay. Number 6, use humor. Yes, humor can help you connect with your audience and make your story more memorable, right? You can use humor and all of that. So in your story, you can fit in some fun activities or not fun activities. Add fun into your story. Say something funny that happened in that particular story. Or it may not be that particular story, but you can bring an aside. You can bring something, just a comment. But the purpose of the comment is to make people laugh, right? You can bring a comment from a movie, from something that happened to you somewhere else, and all of that, right? So sometimes when I tell the story, I say, look, my first ever paid speaking engagement, I was paid with a bottle of Fanta. Can you imagine? A whole Dr. Javnyuy Joybert was paid with a bottle of Fanta. God is good, right? So you find a way that add some humor. Another humor I like to tell a lot is I was born out of wedlock. So sometimes when I'm introducing myself or I'm telling a story, I'll say, so I'm still looking for my dad. Please, if he's in the audience, can you kindly indicate? Right? And people will laugh and they'll just laugh over it, and I'll laugh over it, and then I get the audience just smile and we move on, right? Next, number 7 is use personal experiences. So powerful. Share your own experiences to make your story more relatable and authentic. The more stories that you have that relates to you, perfect. Okay, or things that you experienced, you were there and you saw them with your koro eyes, right? Very important. So use personal experiences as much as possible. Number 8, learn how to use metaphors and analogies. Use metaphors and analogies to help your audience to understand complex ideas and concepts. This is where metaphors come in. Complex ideas and concepts. If you're a Christian, one of the most powerful ways that Jesus was able to communicate his message was through metaphors, right? Through what we will call parables, right? For example, a metaphor can be life is a journey. That's a metaphor. This metaphor compares the experience of life to a journey of traveling from your village to the city, traveling from another country to another country. Life is a process. You are trying to explain that look, life is a process. Same, a journey is a process. You leave from point A to point B, and it's the same with life. If you can use analogies, for example, speaking is like riding a bicycle. This analogy draws the parallel relationship between public speaking and riding a bicycle to convey the idea that both skills require practice. Riding a bicycle is a skill. You don't just wake up and you start riding a bicycle. You need to practice to learn that skill. Same for public speaking. You don't just wake up and you're a good public speaker. You practice to become a good public speaker. Number 9, use suspense. This is so powerful. Build suspense by withholding information and creating a sense of anticipation to keep your audience engaged. Yesterday, my wife did something crazy. That suspense I'm creating. My wife did nothing actually yesterday, but I was just giving an example of how you can use suspense in your session. Number 10, end with a message. End your story with a clear message or takeaway that your audience can apply to their own lives. As I said earlier, never share a story without a lesson, without a principle. Never share a story without a message. Okay, always end your story with a message. Number 11, build tension. What does that mean? Introduce conflicts, introduce challenges, difficulties, obstacles within your story to create suspense and captivate the audience attention. There are some of your sessions that if you're going to drive the right impact, you need to learn how to build tension. Share challenging stories, heartbroken stories if possible, right? They play a big role depending on what you're teaching. Number 12 is provide the right level of detail. Yes. Now, what does that mean? Strike a balance. Don't share too much details to overwhelm your audience, and don't share too little details. Just let there be a balance. Provide the right level of balance when it comes to details. Not too many information, not too much details, and not little information, but balance. And this is important. It helps you not to take all of your time to share stories. When you learn how to strike the balance, you always use the right time to share the right stories. Number 13 is select stories that prove, illustrate, or introduce your point. I said this earlier, but it's very important. Select stories that prove your message. Select stories that illustrate your points. Select stories that introduce your concept that you want people to master. So choose stories that align with your presentation. Choose stories that aligns with the purpose of your message, that aligns with your central message. Very important. Number 14, keep the audience engaged with scene setting, volume, pausing. Use effective storytelling, such as the way you set the scene. You adjust the volume of your voice to create emphasis. You utilize stops to build anticipation and maintain the audience attention. So keep the audience engaged with scene setting, volume, and some stops or some pauses. There's a way that you carry people along. Master this. And just to conclude with this area, train yourself to tell stories. Many times I will sit and I'll tell a story from start to finish. Yes, I would retell it, remove some things, add some things, retell it. Sometimes I'll write the stories. Yeah, sometimes when you write the stories, it helps it comes out better. Then you can practice what you have written and let it get stuck into you. It's an art. It's an art. So practice it. Write their stories out. Say them over and over to yourself. You can record yourself doing that. So, call to action for you: pick out top 10 most inspiring stories in your life. Top 10 most inspiring stories in your life. Then, for the next 30 days, train yourself to tell those stories in a very powerful way. Start by writing out all the 10 stories. Be as descriptive as much as possible. When you're done writing out, start recording yourself telling the stories. Watch, correct until you're good at it. Okay? You can also watch a movie and try to tell the story, tell some scenes in that particular movie. Okay? But by all means, train yourself in the art of storytelling. I hope you got some tips and some points that will enable you to be a thriving speaker that is changing the world with your voice and with your message. God bless you and see you.